Okay, this is the radiator out of a 2006 Mercedes C230. You can see that it's the one-piece unit. If you have to replace this, it's about $600 from Mercedes. The part number is here on the back, if you want to zoom in on that. And I'm having a tough time finding this part at a discount, not from Mercedes. So I felt like, so what happened was I got a coolant visit shop check light in the car. When I looked it up, it basically said my fan was bad. Sure enough, I checked out the car, and when I turned it on, the fan was not spinning. When I turned the AC on, the fan would not rev up really high. And it's an older car. It's 2006, and I don't feel like I should be paying $600 for a stinking radiator fan. So, worst case, I was just like, you know what? I should just kind of tear it apart and see what I can, if I can fix it myself. And so you can see all the tape over here. I actually did tear it apart. And Mercedes has made it so that it is virtually impossible to take apart, like just by loosening the screws and that kind of a thing. And I'll show you when I get into the guts of it. So let me take this tape off. This tape I just put on there temporarily because before I made the video, I wanted to make sure that what I did actually worked in the car. Sure enough, what I did fixed with the problem, and I now don't have to pay $600 for a new fan. Before I show you what's underneath there, I'm going to show you the basic steps of taking apart. You can just go onto the web. There's forums and places that tell you how to get this out of the car. And so now I'm just going to take it apart and show you what it looks like individually on its own. And I'll show you what you need to do to make this repair yourself. It's not a very complicated piece of equipment, and if the people at Mercedes were not a bunch of idiots looking to make a lot of money, they would have kept the two pieces separate. Instead, they integrated the control unit for the fan right into the fan and then charged a ridiculous amount of money for something that just should not be charged this much. Is it like, oh, crazy, extravagant, really good engineering? If it was, it wouldn't have gone out. So you can't use that as an excuse. Oh, it's a, what is it called? A very specialized piece of equipment, or made so much better because it's made by Mercedes. Well, I'm sorry, but if it was that good, it shouldn't have fallen apart or stopped working. So this is the fan all by itself. You don't need to take the other side off. So if you look closely at this, there was a bunch of tabs here. And at first I thought, oh, this is going to be pretty easy. You loosen this screw, you take the tabs off, and the whole thing's just going to come apart. Instead, they actually put a seal in here, and the seal was virtually impossible to take off without doing what I ended up doing. And even after I did what I initially started, it was still hard to take this plastic off. So what I essentially did was I took a Dremel, and being very careful not to go very deep, I just cut this entire top out and here it is. Now you can see the guts inside. And I tried to, there's a few screws in here, and I figured if I loosened the screws, here's a screw, there's one, and there's one. I thought that if I could loosen those, maybe this back would still come off. Sure enough, I took those off and still made no difference. So then I tried to use a screwdriver and pry this thing off, and that didn't work. So essentially, I ended up having to use the Dremel again, and I cut a slit down here, and then as I started pulling, this piece broke off. And you can see that this actually, I don't know if you can see, there's a lip and then a groove, or actually a little ring that goes into the groove down here in this part. You want to put the thing right here? There's a groove. And the seal that they had goes all the way into the groove, one side to the other. Like I said, I used a heat gun. And basically I took some screwdrivers and I stuck it in here, and I would just pry on it, and then I used a second screwdriver down here, pry on it, and just kept working my way around until it finally came off as the one piece. And that wouldn't, if I knew what the internals looked like, maybe I could have done it that way to begin with, but since I had no pictures, nothing to go off of, I just did what I did, which is fine. So then I got into here and I started looking at trying to take this whole assembly off. Loosen the screws. By the way, all of these are glued down to this back plate. Everything is somehow just fastened down, and I have no diagram, and I tried prying, but it seems like if you start prying, you're actually just going to break components because I think they're glued down. Anyway, so I got a 12-volt power supply, which I have, and a couple of 12-volt power supplies actually. And what I did was I found that here's my connector. It's a 4-pin connector. Probably see it better in the light over here. Well, anyways, it's a 4-pin connector. The two fat leads, the red one is plus 12 volts. The brown one is ground. Then there's two skinny leads. The black one is a 12 volt that turns on when you turn the ignition on. And then the green one is a PWM signal from the ECU. And so I traced these leads using continuity back to here. This is the plus here. You can see little holes in there. I can just put my probe from my multimeter into there. And these are the minuses over here. And then the two PCM and the 12 volts when the ignition is on are actually these tiny little, here, let me move the light, you can see it better, are these two tiny little holes right there. Anyways, using the continuity, I've determined that these two holes actually go to these two pins right here, and then these guys go to here, and then there's these power transistors. Looking at this, I couldn't find anything that had actually blown up. So a long time ago I was working on some circuit boards and found out that what happens is these pins look like they're connected, but over time they kind of separate and they lose their contact. And you can't see it by the naked eye, but maybe if you like push on it, you'll see that, oh, you can get continuity through it one time, but not another time. So what I did was I kind of noticed that over here there was a really bad solder. It looked like it was kind of separated. So what I took my soldering gun and I just melted it down, added some more solder to it. And then I decided, since I was doing that one, I might as well do some of these other ones. So after I did that, I put my power here, stuck my power to the 12 volts here, and sure enough, this thing started spinning on its own. Not at a high speed, but just started spinning. At that point, I decided I was going to seal it back up, put it in the car, and when I put it in the car, turned it on, started spinning slow. Then when I hit the AC, it started spinning at high speeds. So basically that was the problem. Loose connectors on the board, and they want $600 for a new unit. It's kind of ridiculous. This should be maybe like a $50 unit, $100 unit, worst case. It's not very, complicated. But anyways, that's how these corporations work. So anyways, so this whole thing works. That's how I fixed it. I just wanted to show you because there's no diagrams available. It's hard to figure out on the web what to do and how to remedy this problem. Basically, it just looks like everybody goes out and gets a new one. You can get some aftermarket ones for a little cheaper than $600, but I haven't done that. And what I was having an issue there was was that the part numbers didn't match exactly with this part number, and so I was a little worried about ordering those. So I put it together, and what I'm going to do now that it runs, I'm actually just going to clean up these solders a little bit better. And I have a plastic welder kit from Harbor Freight, and I'm just going to put this back together, essentially weld it back together, and then clean up this groove, put some probably just a little gasket RTV sealer or something in here, and just put it right back together. Once you bolt this top on, it actually holds that in place anyways, so I'm not sure why they went and put all these additional fasteners and really screwed it down. There's issues of, I've heard, moisture getting in, and then the moisture short circuits a couple leads, and then your fan just turns on and keeps spinning. So that's why I'm just going to seal it up really well so I don't have any moisture problems later. Anyways, that's what I wanted to show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. So, just catching up. Ended up welding the back plate together with some, it's a crappy welding job, but whatever. It's sealed. Did a little, it's just, I used the plastic Harbor Freight welder, and now this thing is one piece again. I'm just gonna make sure that my I resoldered the circuit board to just make sure that I have good solders everywhere. I mean, they didn't even look like they were bad solder points, but since it's really old and they might be corroded underneath, I just resoldered all these individual big solders. So now I'm just going to make sure that when I apply voltage, the fan still wants to spin and I haven't fried anything. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a continuity check, and I'm just going to find the, okay, so that's a place where I can clip onto for my plus 12. Now I need a ground. Okay, there's a ground, plus 12. And I think this is my 12 volts here. If I can find, right there. And then this is, I think, my PCM signal, yeah. So, I'm just going to double check that. So this is plus 12. This is ground. Okay, and I'm gonna grab my power supply. Make sure it's at about 12 volts. And I'm going to hook it up just here. And right there. Okay, that little click makes me happy. And I'm going to go grab a lead. Where's the kit? And I'm going to clip this to my 12 volts here. And then click it to this and see if it wants to spin. There. So it spun. That means that I didn't fry anything. It's still working. So now I can pull the leads off. Turn my power supply off. And I'm going to take some of this RTV sealant. I'm not sure if this is the right one, but I'm pretty sure it'll do. This is for high temp applications, but I just need a bit of a seal and get this. I just need a little seal all around here just to keep debris out. And maybe like the original, it will oh, that stuff's hard to squeeze out. It'll also act as a glue. But the cowl that goes over here, over this whole thing, holds this cap tightly to the base on this anyways, so it's kind of overkill. But it doesn't hurt anybody at this point, so might as well just do it. Because I don't want to do it again. Okay, I think that's good enough for now. Let's take this nicely welded cap and make sure we haven't forgotten anything. And just push this down onto it. Hopefully it still fits. Get these little guys into their little boxes or slots. And I don't really have to press or anything or hold down too long. Instead, what I just have to do is, after these things pop in, yep, they seem to be holding it. Yeah, it's not too bad of a seal, but I think if I can just get this. Some of these tabs broke and I re-welded them on. Oh, but they don't want to line up properly. Okay, so I'm just going to hold this for a little bit. That's actually good enough to where I can take this guy and go in, and when I screw it down, this thing's going to get held. Okay, see how this thing actually now. What I'm gonna do, I'll take this little napkin, stuff it under here so it applies some pressure as I screw the whole thing down. And that should give me, and I can just pull it out a little later. That'll give me the pressure I need for while it dries. See, this thing tightens down on that quite a bit, so I'm gonna pull this out. Don't really need them. Alrighty, now that that's in, just gotta route this cable through. And then take this guy. Push it in until you hear that click. Okay, clean some of this off. And there it is, reassembled. And looking just fine, in my view. I'm gonna make sure these are on good too since I'm here. So I'm just gonna adjust this and make sure that this is centered and rotating properly, because I did take this off earlier and hastily kind of put it back together. But you don't need to take this side off at all. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna put it into the car and see how it does.